biologists. Okay, what we're going to look at today is pollution, and there are 3 types of pollution that you need to know about for your GCSE Biology exam. There's water pollution, introducing new species to a region, and there's air pollution. And today's session we're just going to focus on the 2 types of water pollution that you need to know about. So I'll put a picture up here on the screen. What do you think this is a picture of? Well, this is in fact a fish farm. So I want you to pause the video and have a think about how you think a fish farm might in fact work. Okay, hopefully you've had a chance to think that through. A fish farm is basically a bit like a normal farm in that you have fenced off areas in which you will keep animals. So imagine that each one of these circled areas is like a field with a fence around the outside. The fence in this case is going to be a net, and within that field we grow fish. And so the farmer there, you can see him on his little boat, he will have grown some fish inside in a building until they were large enough that they wouldn't escape through the nets of his fish farm, and then he will have put them into his netting in his fish farm, and he will allow them to grow. They're going to be in the sea, they're going to be in a lake, they're going to be in a river, and so we're going to have water flowing in and out, we're going to have other animals passing in and out of the nets, but he will still need to feed them, so he will still provide food to his fish in his fish farm. If you look underneath, this picture here shows you what the fish farm looks like from the bottom up. You can see the net all the way around and underneath, and there's the fish swimming around inside it. And he would probably grow just one species of fish within that net. So salmon, for instance, trout, quite a lot of those types of fish are grown in fish farms. And if you think about all the protein that we eat as humans across the world, only 17% of it comes from fish at the moment. And you think, well, actually, you know, that's kind of a fifth of all the protein that we eat. But actually, they'd like to use fish in the future as a better way of feeding the human population. Okay, what I want you to do now is have a little think about what the advantages and disadvantages may be to the environment. Again, just jot a few ideas down on a piece of paper, and once you've had a little think, then we'll look at the answers. Okay, so the advantages of growing fish in a fish farm rather than going out and catching them in the sea is that, one, we can meet consumer demand. So if people like to have cod and chips, you know, from a fish and chip shop, actually, you know, in the olden days, people used to have to go out on boats into the sea and to catch cod. And sometimes they didn't catch many cod, and therefore people couldn't eat cod and chips because there just weren't any cod around. And so it allows people, or allows farmers, to grow a specific type of fish that people want to eat. It also prevents overfishing. That's been a bit of a big problem in the UK over the last few years, where particular types of fish, including cod actually, were being overfished. There were too many of them were being caught from the sea, and so their numbers were reducing. Also, fish is better for you than red meat. It's got less fat in it, so that's another advantage why we would encourage people to eat more fish compared to red meat. So disadvantages of growing them in these nets: first of all, that if there is a disease or there's parasites, it's obviously going to spread really quickly between the fish, and they're all going to catch it because they're not as spread out as they might be living in the sea. The other thing is that once the farmer has fed them, if there's uneaten bits of food or if there are dead fish, they will sink to the bottom, fall through underneath those nets, underneath those fish farms, and a build-up of chemicals in the environment can be quite harmful. The second type of water pollution you need to know about is eutrophication. We have done this previously in class, so I'm just going to give you a brief overview now, and I suggest that if you need more detail, you look back in your notes from the lesson. So remember, this was about fertilisers or sewage being added to the water supply. Nitrates in particular. farmers will spread nitrates on their fields because nitrates are needed by plants to grow. Plants turn the nitrates into protein and use them for growth, but of course if those nitrates get washed into rivers or into lakes, they cause the plants and the algae in the water to also grow, and they grow rapidly. And what that did was it blocked out light for plants at the bottom of the lake or the river. Those plants would then die, and this was the important bit. Remember that they were rotted down by bacteria, and that used up oxygen in the water. Because there was no oxygen left in the water, other animals would die. So the key thing to remember there is that the plants get rotted down by bacteria, by decomposers, and that uses up the oxygen, and so other organisms in the water will die. Okay, so have a little look at this question now. I suggest you pause the video and see if you could write a 4-mark answer. So the question says, some students investigated a stream which is very slow flowing and runs through an area where extensive farming methods are used. A thick layer of algae formed on top of this stream. Explain the effect of this algal growth on the organisms in the stream. It's worth 4 marks, so I'm going to need at least 4 points in my answer. So for my first mark, I'm going to say that the plants at the bottom of the stream are not going to get any sunlight. They're being blocked by the algae. Number 2, those plants therefore can't photosynthesize and they're going to die. Number 3, decomposers will rot those plants down, and that removes oxygen from the water, and therefore finally that means that other organisms such as fish living in the stream are going to die. So the final bit that we're going to look at today is how we could tell if a river or a lake or the sea was polluted. So we could go along with chemicals and we could test them to see what type of chemicals were present, but actually another way that we could do it is by using indicator species. So remember, on a car an indicator tells us which way we're going, left or right. Here an indicator species can be used to tell us how polluted water is. And so we've got a variety of different organisms that live in water. So if you look here, we've got stonefly nymphs, dragonfly nymphs, freshwater shrimps, water louse, bloodworm and sludge worms. And you can see that the bloodworms and the sludge worms live in very highly polluted areas. So I always think of the worms in those regions. And then in the nice clean water, we tend to find stonefly nymphs and dragonfly nymphs. Remember, this is in nymph is the stage before it turns into an insect. Okay, so these would, a stonefly nymph would turn into a stonefly, a dragonfly nymph would turn into a dragonfly, a bit like when you read The Hungry Caterpillar when you were little. It's just the stage before the insect, the flying insect stage. Okay, so nice and easy, couple of quick questions. Name 2 species found in clean water, 2 species found in dirty water. Have a quick go. Okay, nice and easy. So clean water, stonefly nymph and dragonfly nymph, dirty water, sludge worm and bloodworm. And you will need to remember the names of these organisms for your GCSE exam.